Hi, I'm Graham Kilshaw with Electrics, and I'm very pleased to be here today on behalf of Waldom Electronics to meet with David Loftus, CEO of the Electronic Components Industry Association, otherwise known as ECIA. Good afternoon, David.
Afternoon, Graham.
So we're going to cover some interesting topics this afternoon, and we're going to roll through some diverse questions. We're going to cover sustainability, trends in the industry, where do we see things going in the next 12, 24 months? And of course, what's happening with EDS. So let's get to it.
Okay.
So David, as the CEO of ECIA, what's your personal vision for the organization moving forward?
Well, we're looking at our mantra, connect, influence, and optimize, and really doing a lot of initiatives to be able to support all three of those. Connect, obviously, we want to continue to improve our ability to bring companies together, manufacturers, reps, and distributors to be able to solve the tough problems in the industry. We're improving our virtual and our in-person forums, especially here at EDS, to be able to really encourage cooperation between our members and to be able to help people form better partnerships. The influence piece of it, we're doing a lot more work with the federal government and advocacy, and working with our with National Association of Manufacturers, which I had the pleasure of sitting on the board of Council of Manufacturing Associations, and with the optimize side of it, we're doing a lot more in the way of data mining sources that we already have and providing additional reports, industry reports, trend reports, and education opportunities to our members.
Yep. I think data is the common thread through a lot of that. And I think a lot of people would agree that under your leadership, I think the organization's already come a really long way.
Oh, we're trying.
So that old phrase, change is the only constant, I think that applies to not only 2024, but 2023. And looks like that's going to be the mantra for 2025 as well. But so what's your take on the emerging trends? What's big? What's going to influence us? I think we know some of the answers. What do you think?
Well, I think you have to be on Mars to not know that artificial intelligence is just exploding across the electronics universe and across the entire universe. I think that AI provides tremendous upside in the way of productivity, creativity, just so much more information at everyone's fingertips, the opportunity to be able to help take away some of the busy work in the way of creating marketing collateral and things like that, to be able to allow employees to focus more of their attention on high value activity is going to be a big boom for the industry. At the same time, it's going to provide some new challenges as well. You know, some of our members are talking about how do you protect intellectual property? How do you protect your trademarks with these AI engines searching the world and searching all of our suppliers' websites and distributors' websites? How proprietary application notes and white papers, things like that. How does the industry protect that from and keep that investment for their own uses and benefit?
Yeah, for sure. And how do you see this explosion of AI affecting the hardware required to run it, and what does that look like in terms of opportunities for members?
Well, just if you look at data center investment is absolutely exploding, and the ability to be able to drive chips now that have 200 billion transistors and all the support around that, all the other electronic components, everything from power conversion to the passives to, even very high temperature PCB boards and heat sinks and forced cooling and things, really benefits all of our members.
So let's talk about the geopolitical environment. We got
very challenging
stress in the Middle East. Ukraine continues. Can you talk a little bit about ECIA's involvement in international trade compliance?
Absolutely. So first off, just the collaborative nature of ECIA, we're trying to work within our membership to be able to help people understand best practices, to be able to try to help make sense of all of the constraints that we have. And we formed an international trade work group in December that has met several times and has not only done a lot to be able to help shape the guidance for what we are going to do, but also help us in our communication directly with the federal government. So, since probably beginning of last year, we've been working a lot more with Department of Commerce, BIS, Department of State, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security. We brought their leaders into our council meetings, board meetings. We brought in Assistant Secretary of State or Assistant Secretary of the Department of Commerce, Matt Axelrod, to our executive conference in Chicago last year to really be able to share the latest developments, latest thinking, and to be able to help encourage our members to really do the due diligence on the trade compliance efforts. We are looking at different ways that we can interface more effectively with the government, better communication, be able to pass along requests from the industry back to them and how they document denied entities and how they propose that we try to police the shipments. And the whole idea here is we want to keep good electronic parts out of the hands of bad actors around the world, the North Koreas, the Irans, especially the Russia, and then try to sort through the constraints that we have and ever moving targets on what we're restricting from China.
And of course, most recently, the Federal Trade Commission slapped some restrictions on a whole host of Chinese companies, some of which had a direct impact on the components industry. Do you want to comment on that at all?
That's right. They certainly impacts everything from raw materials all the way through finished goods. And the increased tariffs that are present, everyone has to figure out how they're going to be able to, at first, even track those, be able to systematize the tariff tracking and who's going to pay for it, all the way through, trying to optimize what that does to inventory levels and how you get bill backs from customers on trying to collect those additional tariffs. It was an interesting challenge in 2017 that the association came together and figured out the best practices then when some of the initial imposition of tariffs are. And as it expands, the association, I think, will continue to bring value and open dialogue between members on how to be able to optimize for the industry.
Right. And how about the restrictions that directly impacted some of the power supply piece of the industry about a month ago? Are you able to comment on that?
Well, there was one attendee that was coming to EDS that we had to disinvite because they were sanctioned for specifically shipping product to Russia and in violation of some of the Department of Commerce and DOS constraints on that. We have to stay vigilant. We have to be monitoring. We've talked about what we're going to have to do, even as an association, in ensuring that we're in compliance in who we're providing services to and who participates in our forum. So, it's an ever-changing world with a lot of importance on doing it right.
Right. David, can we talk about sustainability a little bit? A big piece of Waldom's mission. How important do you see the role of the ECIA in driving sustainability practices across the industry?
Well, yeah, I think that there's thought every time we go through one of these huge cycles about whether those cycles are going to repeat or whether we've learned our lessons. And I don't think that we're ever going to get to a perfect cycle. And so through effective management of inventory, hopefully we can eliminate a lot of the excess inventory, the scrap, and things that fill our landfills and contribute to environmental issues. So I think Waldom plays a good part of that. I think the association is working a lot more to try to optimize practices and information sharing to be able to help in these periods of inflection especially to help manufacturers and distributors and customers all the way down the supply chain try to more effectively manage any kind of waste or any kind of product that's going to be wasted.
And I'm curious what you're hearing from ECIA members generally. Is there increasing pressure on component suppliers to adhere to increasing sustainability standards, whether that's from customers, investors, employees, stakeholders? Are you hearing much of that?
ESG is not going away. Our members, their customers are being bombarded with requests for greater detail in the supply chain on what companies are doing and their efforts to be able to improve sustainability. And so, our role as an association is, number one, to be able to keep abreast of what current trends are, to be able to help, again, establish best practices and let people learn from one another. We're not working only within our membership. We also work in conjunction with other associations. We're working with the National Association of Manufacturers, because this is not just an electronics industry challenge. It's a challenge that all manufacturers and all supply chains are having to answer to. And it's a dynamic situation, trying to figure out whether we need to report Scope 3 and whether there are other formal programs in place. It's all a matter of trying to do our part at the same time, trying to still run a business.
So as you say, it's an ever-moving target, all aspects of ESG. And I agree, it's not going away. I think it's more a question of how rapidly will the pressure increase. But do you think there'll ever come a time where we're going to hit that perfect cycle where, the landfill of components is zero? Do you think we'll ever get there?
I think every cycle that we go through, we think we should have learned the lesson, and hopefully we're going to do a much better job of it next time. But history has proven that that's an elusive goal. Certainly, this last cycle was exacerbated by a lot of the extended supply chain challenges that happened due to COVID. This cycle was definitely a lot different than the cycle that was caused by the financial crisis in 2008, 2009. Each one we learn a little bit. We implement more tools to be able to help in communicating forecasts and to be able to optimize inventory and build processes. At the same time, there's a fundamental issue with this industry, in that we have a very long extended supply chain with a lot of partners. And so whenever there are shortages, everyone clamors to be able to put additional orders on the books, and there's double and triple ordering and alternate bills of materials to be able to try to get product out the door. And then when the market starts to turn down, then everybody taps the brakes at the same time. And I liken it to, traffic on the 405 freeway in LA. You can be stuck in a traffic jam for 5 miles and then get up to the front and figure out there's no there's no accident, there's no reason for there to be that traffic jam, but it's just the fact that successively you've got a number of companies in the supply chain tapping the brakes all at the same time. Everybody's trying to optimize their inventory down, and we run into these kind of oversupply or undersupply challenges. And so I like to think that we get a little bit smarter each time, and the tools maybe get a little bit better, but nothing's certain in this world except death and taxes. And
for sure,
with that uncertainty, there's always going to be challenge, but there's also then the opportunity for distribution. And so we stand for the authorized channel. The authorized channel is a critical component, Waldom being a part of that, in helping customers get through the difficult times, and it'll continue to be a very important cog in the machine going forward.
And that brings us nicely to my next question. You were talking about the complex nature of the industry with multiple partners involved at each step of the way. So I want to talk a little bit about improvements in the collaborative nature of the industry. We all know it's a siloed industry. I think we know there's been a lot of improvements over the last few years, particularly in the areas of of how the data is shared and used. How do you see that moving over the next few years, this collaborative nature of the industry?
If ECIA has a part in that, I think we'll continue to work to try to improve that. I think that ECIA is unique in the fact that we have distributors, manufacturers, and reps all at the same table talking about these difficult challenges. And the better we can bring membership together and to be able to talk about the tough situations, the better we'll be able to manage through these points of inflection.
So I think everybody knows Waldom plays a pretty unique role in this industry. What's your view on their role in this drive towards sustainability?
Well, sustainability and really just overall performance of our industry, Waldom does play a unique part. The fact that they're able to help be able to buffer more inventory on the upside, and they're also able to be able to hold more inventory on the downside, especially for those distributors that are so beholden to the return on working capital numbers that they're judged so closely against. Even on the downside of the cycle, they're able to work with Waldom to be able to help improve the balance sheet and be able to improve their financial performance. Then that inventory is there for the next cycle, and it all works out very well in a uncertain world. There's there are buffer points, and there are people to help try to optimize the supply chain.
Yeah, I think they're a very effective valve in the industry.
Absolutely.
To shrink and contract.
Yep.
I'd like to finish up, David, with a subject that I know is close to your heart, education. And I know that the ECIA, and in particular the ECIA Foundation, has done a lot of work recently in this field. Can you tell us what you've been working on?
Sure. So a couple of years ago, we implemented a new program that we call PACE. And PACE is really what I like to refer to as boot camp level training for employees new to this industry. It's interesting, in a high-tech world like electronic components, I think that we do a wonderful job of educating employees and customers on all the features and benefits of our parts, but no one does a really effective job of telling new people to our industry how this industry works, how distributors and manufacturers and reps work together, the dozens and hundreds of acronyms that we have, how products are, new products are envisioned and how are they brought to market, how R&D teams and procurement teams and so forth, and at the customer side really play, what complementary roles they play in selection of our suppliers, our distributors' products. And, PACE is really an attempt by the association to be able to put a real rich resource in place to allow them to be able to educate those folks more quickly and effectively on how to get up to speed and be more productive.
Yeah, it really is a wonderful program. And I can say, as a student myself of PACE, and I think when I logged in, I was student around 1,500 or something like that. I know there were a lot of people who've gotten involved. I've been in the industry 20 years. I learned an absolute ton that I didn't already know. It's a really wonderful program. Thank you.
We're happy to provide it.
And final question. We're here at EDS. We're at a new place, and we're looking forward to the future. What does EDS look like down the road?
Well, I think there's a renewed energy this year. We had a lot of feedback over the years that while Mirage was a very convenient place in Las Vegas, that they certainly would like to see a new venue that's a little bit fresher. And I think had to stumble upon this one just a little bit with Mirage mosing down for renovation with their new owner, the Hard Rock. And we were very fortunate to be able to find a new home here at Resorts World. We'll evaluate Resorts World. We've got a contract with them for the next couple of years and continue to evaluate here in the short term whether we continue on with them longer term or whether we even step up to if there's a better venue for us. But I think that people love the layout. They love the resources that we have here. And over time, we want to continue to have to refresh on EDS. We don't want it to become stale. We want to make sure that it's an effective meeting of meetings is how I refer to it. That allow business partners to be able to get together on a regular basis, to be able to talk about their strategies, work out how they're going to be able to be more successful together, and make sure that we've got the right constituents here to be able to make everyone's time here as effective as possible. So we're thrilled with the new home this year and look to for continued improvements in the years to come.
Well, I've heard lots of positive comments about the last 2 or 3 days here in Las Vegas, including my own. I think this was a welcome change, and I think everybody, myself included, is kind of excited to hear what the next few years of EDS looks like.
Super.
I'm Graham Kilshaw for Waldom Electronics. Thank you to David Loftus for joining us today, and thank you for watching.
Thanks, Graham.